country once filled with petrol and diesel based vehicles is now slowly transforming into massive EV adoption. From just 1200 EVs in 2020 to over 12,000 EVs in 2024. This is one of the incredible milestones of our country, and our country has officially surpassed the import volume of fuel based vehicles. This adoption highlights that we are shifting towards a cleaner transportation. So with that, this brings us to one of the very important questions. What really triggered the EV adoption in Nepal? And will this EV revolution sustain in Nepal? The first EV revolution dates back to 1975. Where for the first time, trolley buses were launched with the help of Chinese aid. This transportation offered a cleaner alternative to fossil fuel vehicles. However, in 2008, the system faced significant challenges, leading it to its eventual closure. Again in 1990s, software tempo was initiated as a new EV revolution. However, these tempos were not able to sustain in the market for a longer period due to extreme competition from diesel-based vehicles and lack of charging stations. And these were the major reasons why the Nepal's first EV revolution faded away. But this time, the EV revolution in Nepal is backed by our competitive advantage. That is our hydropower and government incentives and policies. So what do you think? Will this EV revolution in Nepal sustain, or will it fade away like the previous one? Before we dive into understand why EV adoption is rising in Nepal, it's really important to look at this report published by Government of Nepal in 2021. As per the report, it is highlighted that in 2019, 23 metric tons of carbon dioxide was emitted, and this number is likely to increase to 34 metric tons of carbon dioxide by 2030. And if no legal action is taken, the country could face severe climate and pollution crisis. However, there were two major sectors contributing to these emissions. Energy sectors contributed 54%. Well, it's practically impossible to completely eradicate the carbon emissions, but somehow it can be mitigated and controlled. And this is where the government of Nepal stepped with a vision to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2030. And this is the reason why we are shifting towards cleaner and sustainable transportation. And this is where EV comes into picture. Well, while the whole country is busy talking about the EV adoption of US, Europe and other countries, Nepal is quietly outpacing all these countries in terms of EV adoption. In last fiscal year, 73% of four-wheeler passenger vehicles imported in Nepal were EV. And the boom and the obsession for EV started back in 2020 when the government slashed the taxes to its minimum and also loan to value to 80%. The policy adjustment was the direct response to 2015 Indian fuel blockade, which was a wake-up call for the country for its heavy reliance on imported fuel from India. Therefore, transition to EV powered by our own hydropower can slash the dependence to Indian for the fuels. And this is how we can preserve our foreign currency and also maintain the trade deficit. Now, this brings us to one of the most important concerns faced by the consumers. The upfront cost of EVs are comparatively higher than that of ICE vehicles. If you look at it from long-term perspective, the operating and the servicing charges for EVs are comparatively lower than that of fossil fuel based vehicles, although its upfront costs are high. Since our country is rich in hydropower, 90% of electricity comes from hydropower means. This indicates that recharging your EV is much more cheaper than refueling your vehicle. Among all the electric vehicles you see on the street is supplied by China. China supplied 70% of electric vehicles in 2024, and it has remained #1 supplier to our country. Chinese manufacturers have not just dominated the EV markets in Nepal, but it has dominated the EV market globally. Brands like BYD, NETA, OMODA have captured a significant attention in Nepal's EV market. However, for this current revolution to endure and sustain, the government should focus on expanding the charging stations or charging infrastructures to different parts of the country, and moreover should also diversify the supply chains, because we know that China is the major supplier of EVs in Nepal. And if the country could diversify its supply throughout different countries in the globe, or that would keep less stress later in the future for being more dependent on China. Well, that's all from my side. If you have made it till the end, I really appreciate your effort and attention. So until then, signing off.